In 2013, a horror movie arrived that didn't just rely on jump scares. It promised something more terrifying. It was based on a true story. The Conjuring introduced the world to the Perron family, a demonic witch named Bathsheba, and the legendary paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. The film was a massive success, grossing over $320 million at the global box office and launching a billion-dollar cinematic universe. It turned a quiet Rhode Island farmhouse into a tourist hotspot and made the Warrens into folk hero. But how much of it is actually real? Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter of the real family at the center of it all, has a surprisingly candid answer. She told Global News in 2021 that the film is about 95% fiction and about 5% hard truth. Today, we're going to separate the fact from the fiction. We'll go beyond the Hollywood spectacle to uncover the real story of the Perron family, the truth about the historical figure of Bathsheba Sherman, and the controversial legacy of the Warrens themselves. This is the real story behind The Conjuring. In 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron, along with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April, were looking for a fresh start. They found it in a sprawling 14-bedroom farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, a property that had been built in the 1730s. At first, it seemed like a dream home, but the family's idyllic vision didn't last. The movie compresses the haunting into a short period, but in reality, the experiences unfolded over nearly a decade. It was subtle at first, Andrea Perron later recalled. It was just little things, a broom going missing, strange scraping sounds against the kettle, noises in the night. The family, particularly Carolyn and the girls, began seeing full-body apparitions, hearing unexplained noises, and smelling foul, rotting odors that seemed to come from nowhere. This is where the 5% of truth Andrea mentioned begins. The movie shows these events escalating rapidly, leading to a demonic exorcism. But the real story was a slow-burn nightmare. The family lived in a state of constant unease, with some spirits being described as benign and cordial, while others were more mean-spirited. As Andrea put it, the spirits were just like us, a wide variety of personalities. Their father, Roger, was a traveling jewelry salesman and was often away from home. Andrea has suggested this is likely why he was the least targeted and initially refused to believe the house was haunted. He simply didn't experience what the rest of the family was experiencing. The family didn't just pack up and leave, they were trapped. They suffered financial instability and were forced to remain in the home until 1980. My mother told my father she would not survive another winter in the house, Andrea said in 2021. She had been under attack in that house for 10 years. In the movie, the terrifying antagonist is Bathsheba Sherman, a 19th century Satanist who sacrificed her infant to the devil before hanging herself from a tree. She is the source of all the Perron's torment. It's a terrifying narrative, but it's almost entirely Hollywood invention. The real Bathsheba Thea Sherman was indeed a woman who lived on that Rhode Island farm in the mid-1800s, but the movie's narrative is a slander of her memory. The real Bathsheba died in Barrowville in 1885 at the age of 73. Her son, Herbert Leander Sherman, lived for another 18 years, well into his 50s. She did not die by suicide and she did not sacrifice her child. In fact, even Andrea Perron has come to believe that Bathsheba was wrongfully accused. Essentially, Bathsheba copped the blame for everything evil, and it simply wasn't the case, Andrea told Global News. She believes the evil spirit in their home was likely someone else. This is a perfect example of how the Warrens' involvement shaped the story. The film presents the Warrens as the heroes who identified the witch and saved the family. But in reality, the Warrens were contacted after the fact by other paranormal researchers who had heard of the Perrons' plight. They came to investigate, and Lorraine's clairvoyant abilities led her to focus on Bathsheba. As Andrea later lamented, when Mrs. Warren decided that she felt a dark presence in the house and said it was Bathsheba, then everything that happened in the house got blamed on Bathsheba. And that's just not the case at all. The climax of The Conjuring is a tense, dramatic exorcism performed by Ed Warren in the basement, where Carolyn Perrin is possessed by Bathsheba and Ed has to save her. While this makes for great cinema, it's not what the real Perrin family recalls. The Warrens did allegedly guide Carolyn and Roger through a dramatic event, but it was a seance, not an exorcism. It wasn't held in a basement, but in a first-floor room next to the master bedroom. Andrea Perrin secretly witnessed this event, and her description is chilling. My mother began to speak a language not of this world in a voice not her own, she told USA Today. Her chair levitated and she was thrown across the room. This event was the breaking point for the family. Roger Perron, who had been skeptical up until then, was horrified by what he saw. He was concerned for his wife's mental stability and ordered the Warrens to get the hell out of the house. He didn't want their methods terrifying his family further. Also, despite what the movie shows, Ed Warren was not authorized to perform an exorcism. The Warrens, being devout Catholics, knew that an exorcism had to be performed by an approved Catholic priest. Lorraine insisted her husband would never perform one. In the film, the church gives them permission. In real life, that dramatic final act simply didn't happen. The film's depiction of Ed and Lorraine Warren is perhaps the most successful part of its mythology. They are portrayed as brave, loving, and deeply religious ghost hunters, the protectors of the innocent. But who were they in real life? The legend, Ed, was a Wortley WW veteran and self-taught demonologist. Lorraine was a clairvoyant and trance medium. They founded the New England Society for Psychic Research in 1952, investigating over 10,000 cases throughout their careers. They were involved in some of America's most famous paranormal cases, including the Amityville Horror, the Enfield Poltergeist, and the Devil Made Me Do It trial. But for every believer, there are dozens of skeptics who paint a very different picture. The reality is that many of the Warrens' cases have been thoroughly debunked. The Amityville Horror, which the Warrens championed as one of the most haunted locations they'd ever visited, is widely accepted as a hoax fabricated by the Lutz family to get rich. Even the famous ghost photo from that investigation was later debunked as an assistant in a bedsheet. Perhaps the most damning testimony comes from author Ray Garton, who was hired by the Warrens to write their 1992 book on the Haunting in Connecticut case. Garton claims that when he told Ed Warren the family stories didn't add up, Ed told him, "They're crazy. Everybody who comes to us is crazy. You've got some of the story, just make the rest up and make it scary." He further insinuated that the Warrens only shifted their focus from ghosts to demons after the popularity of The Exorcist, a clear indication of their skill at self-promotion. The Warrens even attracted a lawsuit from the family of a young boy they claimed was possessed during the Arne Johnson case. The brother of the boy sued them, claiming the book was complete lies and that the Warrens concocted a phony story to get rich and famous at our expense. While the cinematic Warrens are loving and gentle, even Ed Warren's personal life has been subject to dark allegations. So, what happened to everyone after the events depicted in the movie? The Perron family finally moved out of the house in 1980, moving to Georgia. Roger, who died in 2021, later admitted he didn't want to believe his wife because he couldn't bear the thought of putting his family in danger. Carolyn passed away in recent years. The family's daughters have gone on to lead various lives. Andrea became an author and paranormal investigator. The youngest sister, April, tragically died in 2017 from a prescription drug overdose after a surgery. The real Conjuring house at 1677 Round Top Road is still standing. After the Perrons left, it was a private home for decades. A home daycare even operated there with no paranormal reports. But after the movie's release, it became a tourist destination. It was sold in 2022 for $1.5 million, and now operates as a tourist attraction where you can book day tours or even stay overnight to conduct your own ghost hunt. Ed Warren died in 2006 at 79. Lorraine Warren passed away in 2019 at 92. Before her death, she consulted on the first two Conjuring films, cementing their legacy. The Warrens' occult museum, which housed the real Annabelle doll, was run by their daughter for a time and has recently been purchased by comedian Matt Rife, who plans to open it for tours. The genius of The Conjuring is that it uses a grain of real human experience to craft a terrifying, cinematic fiction. The Perron family did live in a house they believed was haunted. They did experience unexplained phenomena that terrified them and tore at the fabric of their family for nearly a decade. That much is real, but the devil, as they say, is in the details. The witch didn't exist as portrayed. The exorcism was a seance. And the heroes of the story, the Warrens, were far more controversial and self-serving in real life than they ever were on screen. Ultimately, the real story of The Conjuring is not about a demonic witch. It's about a family who endured a terrifying experience, and the storytellers, whether paranormal investigators or Hollywood filmmakers, who took that experience and shaped it into something that would entertain and horrify millions. It's a fascinating reminder that sometimes the most compelling horror stories are the ones that blur the line between reality and imagination. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like, share, and subscribe for more real stories behind your favorite movies. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.